Not this crap again. I got the same.
Oh, no.
Nope, maybe.
I just print everything out and kill a tree.
He's in Pierre. Probably should. Budget meeting, president. Meeting in Pierre. I'd say.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'd just like to acknowledge that President Griggs is in Pierre this afternoon for budget meeting with all the tech school presidents. So I'm sure he would love to be here, but he is needed in Pierre. So we're glad that he's there representing STI. Any persons wishing to address the board? Okay, thanks, Vicki. May I get approval of the minutes of August 2nd?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, can I get approval for the agenda, please? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, on to conflicts of interest. I don't think we had any for this month. And can I get an approval for the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, we move on to the reports of the president, and with the president not here, we'll move on to the academic program overview report, please.
President Parker, members of the board. I am not Jim Jacobson. He is also missing today. He is home with the flu, and I'm sure he'd rather be here as well. We're already starting to get hit by a little bit of sickness at Southeast.
We're glad he's not.
Yes. When I talked to him this morning about after 7, he was like trying to think what he could do, and I'm like, bed would be all you should do. So hopefully that's where he's at. Today we have an excellent report. We actually have 3 programs. They're all one-year programs. Then we also have certified nursing assistant, which is actually can be done in a few months. Today we have 3 faculty. We have Deb Cummings, and she represents Farm Tech, Andrew Kibbe, who is going to represent phlebotomy, and then we have Sherry Post, who is certified nursing assistant. I think this is going to be one you're going to enjoy. Thank you.
Thanks.
President Parker and the members of the board, I'm happy to be here. My name is Andy Kibbe, and I'm an instructor at Southeast Tech, and I'm also the advisor for the phlebotomy program. So I'd like to talk about that a little bit today. As Craig said, the phlebotomy program is a 2-semester program. So we have 2 starts. We start in August, and those students finish in just before graduation in May, and then we also have a January start, and those students finish at the end of July. The program is, we like to market it as an entry-level healthcare program. Some students use it as a vehicle they work as a phlebotomist while they're in nursing school or medical school. Some people spend a career in phlebotomy. So I think it's a hard job. I think that nobody's happy to see the phlebotomist. You know, I tell the students, you know, you're not the pizza guy. So what they have to be able to do is they have to have the technical skills. And I'm a hard stick. So I want one stick. I want it labeled correctly. I want it to get to the lab. You know, I want those technical things, but I also want somebody who's comforting, somebody who won't raise my anxiety level any higher than it is. So it's a skill that's in demand in Sioux Falls. One of the things I didn't put on the slides is that most phlebotomists still are trained by the hospitals because even our program can't meet the demands for phlebotomists. So many of our students, that's in one of the slides coming up, but many of our students are hired during the clinical phase of their training. Our students, as it says on the slides, they do one semester with us at Southeast Tech, 17 credits. And then the next semester, they spend half of it in the lab, 8 weeks in the lab, where they get about 50 sticks on each other, on the staff, on mostly grandma. You can bring your family in, and as a grandfather myself, I think they're a little underrepresented in who comes in, but and then they do an 8-week clinical, and we use everybody. Our clinical partnerships are very important. We use the Avera, we use Sanford Community Health, we use all the clinics, the VA. So we have very good community support for our program. Next slide, please. The program is myself, I'm the advisor, and it's kind of interesting because I am not a phlebotomist myself. Okay, we have 2 professional phlebotomists that we hire as adjuncts, Ryan Brecky and Debbie Peterson. Debbie's our clinical coordinator. She does all the hard work of the program, getting our clinical affiliates, working with them to place the students, and then we have Ryan, who is our full-time, or he's the phlebotomy instructor for the phlebotomy courses. Next slide, please. Yeah, here are our students, and we graduate, as it says there, between 15 and 20 a year over the 2 starts, sometimes more, sometimes less. Last year we had 16. We had 9 who graduated in May, and we had 7 who graduated at the end of the summer. It's predominantly it's a non-traditional occupation for men, although we do have some male students some years. Employment is excellent. Employment is excellent. Our clinical affiliates say, send us more. And when they're performing their 8-week clinical rotation, most of the students are hired before they finish. We talk about it as the longest interview that you'll have. So that's Nancy Gakey, one of our longtime faculty members, willingly giving up her arm for practice. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to Sherry.
So the Certified Nursing Assistant is a hybrid course that we do. It's 40-hour online instruction. There's online skill videos, there's online chapter lectures, and then we have proctored unit exams. And there's 4 of those. In class lab, we have 35 hours where they practice working on their skills. And we're also able to clarify anything with online lectures. And then they do a 16-hour clinical that's done, and we take turns doing it in different nursing homes in the Sioux Falls area. And then at the end of the course, there's a state certified testing which we do on campus, and then they become certified. There's a lot of regulations with the nursing assistant. The Certified Nursing Assistant program follows both federal and state regulations. So if I change curriculum or anything, I have to get it approved by the State Board of Nursing, and also make sure that I'm following the federal guidelines. So students become certified for 2 years once they complete our program. If they so desire and they continue to work in the field, they just have to have 12 hours of continuing education and work at least 8 hours to continue with their certification. So our faculty members, there's 2 full-time health corps faculty. And when I say health corps, Andy, myself, and then also pictured here is Mylin Hansen. Our titles are health corps, and we also, what we do is we teach the general health classes for all of the different health programs. And so I advise for the nursing assistant, and then Andy on top of it with the advises for the phlebotomy. So we have some dual roles. We do use 4 adjunct part-time instructors, and then we have 3 actresses. When we do test out on campus, it's a highly regulated affair, and we have to hire actors to be the patients and where they perform their skills. So right now we just have actresses. There's some pictures of our CNA lab. We can hold up to 16 students in a class at a time, which gets kind of crazy. We have 5 beds in there. We do have some desks where students practice with that, and they use each other for patients throughout the time there. It's a 3-credit class. We do have day and evening starts. We've been discussing some weekend classes to help with everybody else's schedules. So we have starts in August January, May, July, October, March, and June. Our CNA employment and salary. So our graduates work in nursing homes, home care, hospitals, sometimes, assisted livings. Graduate about 150 students a year. Starting wage is about $12 an hour. If you go online and look at employment, a lot of times there's sign-on bonuses. There's a huge need for nursing assistants, that entry-level position. Many become Southeast Tech diploma and associate degree graduates. When I say that, it's a prerequisite for our nursing program on campus, and then our ultrasound, our 3 ultrasound programs, and our invasive cardiovascular. Gives them a taste of what healthcare is about before they decide to jump in for that 2-year program, and gives them those skills right away. All right, I'm gonna switch places with Deb.
Hello, I'm Deb Cummings, and I'm the pharmacy technician instructor at Southeast Tech. This is a picture of some of the pictures of the lab that we have. It's built from when we first started. When we first started at Southeast in 2006, we just had a desk and some chairs, so I'm kind of proud of our lab. The first picture is a retail setting, so we have a real area where the students, someone can bring in a script, the students pick it, they fill it, and then we have a pretend pharmacist check it. And the other is just more of the IV compounding area. We have 3 semesters. They start in the fall, they start in August, and they take 19 credits, so it's a pretty full load. And then in the spring they have 20, in the summer they have 9 credits, and that 9 credits is their clinical. They do 8 weeks of clinical, 4 weeks in a hospital setting, 4 weeks in a retail setting. So we utilize a lot of places in Sioux Falls, Sanford, Avera, the VA, Targets, Lewis, Hy-Vees, any of the retail that we'll take depending on how many students we have. Sanford also does something really nice now. Next week we will go on a tour of Sanford. They then, I tell my students they wine and dine us. The HR people meet with us, the director of pharmacy meets with us, their supervisor meets with us, and then the following week Sanford HR comes into Southeast Tech and they interview all the students. I have all the students interview whether they want a job or not because it's good practice. And then Sanford will offer them jobs. And what they do then is they have a job usually by the end of September in the program if they choose to have one. They'll hire them for 24 to 32 hours while they go to school with the stipulation that they complete the program, pass their certification exam, and then when they are done, they increase their hours. And Lewis Drug does the same thing the following week. So they come in, interview, talk with the students, and offer them. I tell the students they do not have to take a job while they're in school. Last year I had all but 3, and they decided they didn't feel they could work and do their classes justice, so that was fine. They had employment right after they graduated, but that's a nice plus to say I have a job and I haven't completed yet. So that's always really nice. That clinical gives them a little bit of idea because I think most people think retail pharmacy is we just count some pills and put them in a bottle and that's all we need to know. And there's so much more involved in pharmacy than that. So it kind of gives them an idea of what the hospital looks like, what retail looks like. We talk about home health and all the other places that they can work. We had the one start. They do come back in that summer session for a 3-day review with me after they finish their clinical. So the first 2 days, they meet on campus, we do a review. The 3rd day, they take their certification exam. And that exam is given here in Sioux Falls at Pearson View Testing Center. And so it just freshens everything up and helps them go along and pass their boards. We are accredited by the ASHP, which is the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, and ACPE, the Accreditation Council for Pharmacy Education. We have been since the first year of the program. Every 6 years we renew that accreditation. So those are things. It's in July that the technicians sit for that PTCB, and they have a national certification. Once they pass a certification, it's good nationwide, which is a plus. Every 2 years, then, they need to have 20 continue ed credits, which is very easy to get. And when they come for review, I explain to them how to get those continue ed credits. And so it's a plus for them to continue on even if they stop working in the field. Here's a group of students. They are garbed aseptically. As I told you, we have the retail portion and we have the IV portion. So they have to know how to garb to go into an IV room. And we have in the back where you see the door is a mock IV room, and there's 2 IV hoods in there. And we teach aseptic technique and how to garb and scrub and make IVs and chemos. So here they're just playing dress up, I tell them. And just recently, our program was noted for the 15th out of 15 pharmacy technician programs, and so I was very proud of that. And there's a great demand for pharmacy technicians all over. I have people calling all the time, do you have more? I'll take more. Can I have them now? So, thank you. Oh, average salary, I guess I forgot that one. It's about $30,000. I usually tell them they're going to start out around $14, $15 an hour. And in our world, it's a variance in whether they work nights, days, and weekends and holidays, so that pay can, increase, decrease. Retail usually pays a little less, but once they get in there, again, I say, here's your time to shine. I show them that you're a good employee, you're a good technician, and your pay scale will go up. So that would be the end. Thank you.
President Parker, members of the school board, do you guys have any questions for us? Thank you for listening.
Oh, first of all, thank you. Wonderful reports, all 3 of you. With the pharmacy tech program, does Cigna or any of the mail order also use the
Yes,
tech
we use
programs?
Cigna, we use Omnicare, Medvantix. There's Farm America, it's right over here, I think.
So, and could the program, we need more room, basically, to grow the program and instructors? Is that?
Right now, the numbers have been a little down. A lot of it is of course, students want to make, $40, $50 an hour when they come. We're working on it. Could we build that more? Yes, and we have had 2 starts, and we've had, tried the evening. We didn't have a big interest in the evening program, so
Thank you.
we would build it, yes.
Well, I work in healthcare officially, so I have comments about the importance of the jobs that your students are doing. I'm a nurse, and so when I think about the phlebotomists, I work at Sanford, and we have some specific floors that are nurse draw, and then we have many other floors that are strictly phlebotomists. And so I can't tell you from a nurse myself how relieved we are when we see the phlebotomists show up, because we know that they have the skill and the ability to get that lab. And then we also talk a lot about the importance of those technical skills and getting that lab right, because if you think about the trickle-down effect of that patient getting the wrong lab could lead to the wrong treatment. They could get something they shouldn't, or not get something they should, or whatever. And so I think, you can't really put enough importance on the job of that specific person in their labs. Same thing for certified nursing assistants. Oh my goodness, you come into work and you look at your assignment and you know that you're going to have a good day based on who you're working with. And so those people are so important, not just to the nurse, but to the patient. They probably spend more time with people than the nurse does, and for sure the physician does. And so, those skills that your graduating students with are so important, especially as our population of people ages. We're going to need more and more of those people to take care of people. So awesome. And the pharmacy techs, kind of goes back to the phlebotomist. If you don't get the right meds in the right drawer, or you don't make the right medication, that can have a huge impact on those patients. And so, to think that you can go to school for a year or for a few months and you can have such an important job of taking care of people, I don't think people really understand that. And so the work that you guys are doing is super important. And so I thank you from the healthcare industry for the work that you're doing of continuing to churn out those people, and however we can get more of those graduates. I know that many organizations in Sioux Falls and probably just in our area would be so grateful for the skilled workers that you guys are graduating every year. So thank you for the report, but also thank you for your time in the classroom with the students and the difference that you're making.
It's our passion. We love it.
You can tell.
Yeah, very needed program. So thank you, Andy, Sherry, and Debbie. Thank you for being here today to share your story with us. Any other comments or questions? Right, I'll take a motion to acknowledge the Southeast Tech report.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Thank you very much. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. And enrollment update. I believe
President.
this could be a good news report.
It'll be a good news report. Yes, it will. President Parker, members of the board. Before I actually introduce the individuals who will give you the enrollment report, President Griggs did ask me to give you some information regarding an event that's going to take place this Friday. If you haven't seen it in the media yet, you probably will hear about it before too long. We are doing, our students, through our Student Government Association and Student Activities, is holding an event for the Hurricane Harvey relief efforts. It's going to be downtown. We're going to have a semi down there. I think it's 13th Avenue or Street that they're going to block off part of it to have our truck down there. The goal is to get certain items, and they have a list of items that will be out there for people to see, that will actually go down, and it's really to replenish their pantry that goes through the same thing ours does after a Christmas, for example. They need certain items, and they know they're going to be using them up, and now they got to replenish it. And so these particular donations will go down to the efforts. The South Dakota Trucking Association is going to help us to get that down to those people that are very much in need right now. So when you hear about it, now you heard about it from me too, so hopefully even if you can come down and see, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. is a time frame that we'll have students there, we'll have employees there, just gathering what we can to send down to help those people. So wanted to pass that on. For now, yes, we do have a good report on our enrollment, and we have two people who have been very instrumental in our efforts to increase our enrollments, especially when you're talking about new students, getting them in, and also returning students and making sure they continue. And so today we have with us Christy Vortherms, she's our registrar, and we have Jackie Danielson, who has been one of our student success advisors in the past, is working as an admissions rep for a while, and now she is actually our interim director of admissions until we get that position filled. So both of them will come up and do the report.
Thanks, Tracy.
President Parker, members of the board, thank you for your time this afternoon. We are here to give you the Southeast Tech enrollment report, and yes, it is a good news report. I'm Christy Vortherms.
And I'm Jackie Danielson.
All right, for the first slide. The top group of numbers represents the numbers of students we have. This fall, we're at 2,285 students, which shows an increase of 5.7%. which is a very exciting thing when you look at the previous years. And the bottom group of numbers shows the number of credit hours. So we are up 6.1% in overall credit hours.
And this next slide shows students who are new to their program area. So this includes brand new students who are just starting their program of study. It also includes current students who maybe did a program change and are now starting a new program at Southeast Tech, and then also returning students. So perhaps a student that attended Southeast Tech in the past and has decided to come back for a new program. For instance, we have an LPN program that when students graduate from that, they work 750 hours in the field, and then they can come back for our RN program. So that would include those students here as well. So for fall of 2017, the top number there, we're at 1278. So again, just showing that increase of 11.2%.
And then to break down those new numbers into how many are in first year or 1-year programs and 2-year programs. So at the top, those numbers are really encouraging for us because that gives us the opportunity to retain those students to a second year. And then the numbers below show those that are enrolled in a 1-year program currently at Southeast Tech. So we're showing, a very good increase, 9.7% in the two-year programs, and then 16.9% in the one-year programs, such as the programs that they presented on earlier.
And here, these are the numbers, these are the students that are brand new to Southeast Tech. So they never took a class in high school through Southeast Tech. They are brand new, taking classes for the first time with us. And so at the top number, fall of 2017, we see 875 students, so an increase of 8.4%. The really exciting part here is that our goal for brand new students was 850. So seeing that 875 is very exciting. Also, the next one, dual credits and learners to leaders. So looking back from fall of 2014, 93 students, and we just see it go up, and fall of 17, we're at 169, so the highest that we've ever been with dual credit and learners to leaders, so a 23.4% increase. The really exciting part with this is those 169 students are a great pool for us to draw from, because they're already starting to take classes through Southeast Tech. They're getting used to how to take an online class with us. Some of them are even on campus taking classes, so they're getting familiar with Southeast and comfortable, and will be a great pool for us to draw from. So possible reasons for the increase this year. One thing is we now have a more streamlined entrance requirement process. Did that by eliminating some of those barriers that students had with getting in and getting accepted. Increased communications with our JRM software, which is fairly new software program that we're using. We're able to communicate a lot more efficiently with students through email, through phone calls, and we're able to document those communications with students too. So for admissions, this has just been a really great tool to have this year. We've built stronger relationships with area high schools and high school counselors. We've also increased our campus tours. And so we do weekly tours, we also do daily tours. So prospective students can either make an appointment ahead of time and get on a tour, or they can simply walk in, and we do scheduled tours throughout the day. So it's pretty easy to jump in on a tour. These tours are led by students, which I think has been a great recruiting tool. Prospective students like to talk to current students about Southeast Tech.
Another thing that we see as a possible reason for the increase is that we increased the role of everyone on campus to be involved in the recruiting process. That this is not a process that is exclusive just to the admissions office, that every employee is a potential recruiter. Also, we implemented academic advisement and registration days this year, and I had spoke to you earlier this year about that, a new way of registering students. And what it does is it helps build the relationships of those new students with their faculty advisors, gets them introduced to them right away. When they come to that day, not only are they building a relationship with their faculty, but they are also meeting the people from the business office, the bookstore, daycare. They are exposed to so many more things as to what Southeast Tech is all about. And when they see those people, when they walk on the campus the first day, President Griggs even mentioned, because he does a session, and he said, I have students coming up and waving at me on campus because they know who I am, which is, that's a big thing for people to be able to know who the president is. And we've also implemented the certificate programs in medical coding and welding this past year.
So some ideas for future plans for increasing enrollments. We're going to be looking at ways to personalize the admissions journey for students. So we have students that are transfer students. We have students that are coming right out of high school. We have non-traditional age students. We have students that just want online programs. So maybe tailoring the admissions process depending on which journey these students are coming from. So just making it more of maybe a personalized experience through admissions. Another thing is increasing connections to regional high schools and just strengthening those relationships with high school counselors.
Also looking at ways to improve the academic advising days, again, to do just like what they're doing with the admissions process, to go further and to tailor those advising and registration days to an online student or a non-traditional student. Not all the students need the exact same thing when they come to those days.
And increasing and improving prospective student communications. And again, our JRM software is going to be a very useful tool with this. So when our admission reps schedule high school visits with a high school counselor, we'll not only be able to let the counselor know, but we'll be able to contact all of our prospects and inquiries and applicants, those students, and to let them know, hey, one of our admissions rep will be at your high school on this date. Stop by and see us.
And we will also continue to increase the involvement of all employees through the student recruitment, and that is going to be through there's going to be more opportunities available for faculty and other staff to connect with those prospective students. And then through academics, we will work on increasing certificate options for students also. Just a note is that these numbers are not final numbers yet. They're still getting to the nitty-gritty, and we'll be getting you more information broken down more. But one thing about these numbers is they were cautiously optimistic, so the only way that we would see these changing is to increase. So that is our presentation for today. Do you guys have any questions for us?
Any questions?
Great news.
Congratulations, and that took a lot of hard work to do that, even with the trends in college right now, entrance, the numbers are going down, so to change that trend and go for the positive, really, really appreciate all of your hard work and making that
Campus-wide effort.
successful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you both, Jackie and Christy. Really great work this year, or this summer. Any other comments or questions? All right, can I get a acknowledgement of the enrollment update?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, and on to the financial wrap-up. Rich?
President Parker, members of the board, obviously fun to follow that type of report as we start talking about financial wrap-ups, and clearly that's the dropping of the flag on what is FY18 for us, the green flag. I'm going to talk about the checkered flag that we just crossed in terms of our FY17 wrap-up. And I think to go back just a little bit on the history of it, we talked about the desire to cover that structural deficit throughout the year, and we've had reports throughout the various board meetings about how we're progressing towards that. And it's always a guessing game. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball as to where are we going to actually spend dollars. And I'm saying as we went through this, the folks in the room might disagree with me, but I don't think we took a heavy-handed approach in saying, you know, it's absolutely no expenditures, it's absolutely none of this. It wasn't trying to pull the rug out in achieving that goal. It was more of a soft approach to it. But it was really a unified effort from everybody on campus to recognize what we were trying to do and what we were trying to accomplish in meeting that structural deficit and trying to cover that throughout the year. So as we get to this year, I get the task or the pleasure of reporting on how we ended up and where we finished. So as you just look at this summary, and I laid the other reports against it, just so you can kind of get a sense of where we were at as we progress through the year. And things change, things move around, but at the end of the day, we're looking at this right-hand column there, and we were trying to get that to be zero. So last quarter, when I reported, I thought we were heading that direction. There's always some things, some anomalies, some extraordinary items that happen during the year that you can't always project and anticipate. So if you just look at the raw numbers, the numbers that we prepared when we handed over to the auditors, we're looking at a differential of about $75,000. In the scope of a $24 million budget, that's a small number. That's not a number to be concerned about. But if you dive deeper into that and you start looking at what made up that $75,000, there were some extraordinary items. There were some things that were actually budgeted in FY18 that are construction-related items that actually got underway in 17 and were paid for. So that gives us a head start into next year. So you can start to peel some of that away from that $75,000 differential. Another piece that came into it was the closeout of the TSI fund. That happened in this year, and we had to buy out some of the equity that remained in that fund as we went to close that and incorporate that into the post-secondary fund. So there was a small element to that. Another piece that I didn't put into the report really goes back to the consultant that we brought in mid-year when we started to look at what did we need to do to talk about that enrollment funnel. We didn't budget for that. We didn't plan for that. But I think it was an investment. It was money well spent when we go out and look at where we wound up in the year and the results that have happened. So that consultant primed the pump, but the folks in the room and on campus actually did the heavy lifting to get the numbers and where we're at and looking on the enrollment side of it as we head into this year. But so I'm happy with the results. Ultimately, it's you as the board to decide how we got to where we needed to be. As you look down on the report, I'm going to skip this part. We can come back to it if necessary. But really what I tried to do was go back into these individual categories. When you look at tuition and you start going at and breaking those apart a little bit more, diving down into the weeds a little bit and seeing where we had these favorable or unfavorable variances. And it's going to be all over the board. You're going to see things that are more discretionary where we have favorable variances. When you get into some of the purchase services and you look at travel, we can control some of those types of things. We can try to be efficient with our supply. So you see variances in those types of things. But what I really wanted to show you was on down the road here, a couple pages into it, is on this summary report that we present. And what I'm looking at here is the budget to actual numbers when we look at that revenue. And we see that we're at 99.62% of what we planned. I'll take that number every year. That's very, very close to achieving what we had projected we were going to do. Yeah, our credits were down, but we were up in other areas. But overall, we met that objective in terms of our revenue. When you go down and you look at the bottom line on the expenditure side of it, you see that we expended, I can't see, it says too small, 98.07% or whatever that number winds up being, 98.03. In order to achieve that task just from an expenditure side, we would have had to have been in at 97.48%. That would have generated that $638,000 in savings that we were looking for in that operating task. So when you look at that differential, it's really 55 basis points. Again, that's in the margin in my mind. So without going into all the detail, I'm very pleased where we wound up with the year. I think we accomplished what we set out to do. $600,000 impact was not that. It's a relatively smaller one. And I think we can account for some of those differentials in that $75,000 in getting a jump start into our FY18 expenditures, but also an investment we made in that consulting and getting us think about how we look at our admissions and our recruitment activities. So we're on the right track and we're moving in the right direction as we go forward with it. So any specific questions as we want to dive into the details of anything within the reports? But what will happen next is this. The report that was prepared for the financial wrap-up is what we hand off to the auditors. Mm-hmm. So the auditors, you're getting what I think we did. In a few months, you're going to hear what we really did. And is there going to be some changes in that? Possibly, but I don't anticipate anything major being in there. Sometimes it's just accounting termination or determinations and whether we record something. But we're really right on track where I think we need to be.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah. When I think about sitting at the board table a year ago, looking at the $600,000 task that we asked you to take care of, to be $75,000 short of bringing that to zero, I think that's great work. Without the work of the consultant and everybody on campus, we wouldn't see the turnaround that we're seeing in enrollment for this coming year. So, and I know that we look at it a year at a time. That's part of our job. But I also know that there has been a tremendous amount of groundwork laid over the past year that is going to pay dividends moving forward. So I mean, is it where you wanted it to be or where we maybe asked you to have it a year ago? Not quite, but hiring that consultant was key to being where you are at today and the success that you're seeing. So the team has worked hard. I think the new leadership from Bob has certainly brought an energy to the campus that has been a huge help, and I just want to thank all of you for your extra efforts and the hard work that everyone has put in this past year to really turn things around and set us in on a much better course.
I think, I was going to say, I think similar to how the admissions noted how everybody on campus really was a part of the success of bringing in new students and getting more credits. I think the same is true for the financial health of the organization. I think that took everybody working together and acknowledging how can we be, responsible with the supplies that we're using, and how can we, things like that. So you might think, I just teach this class, I can't impact that $600,000, but it really does take the buy-in and the contributions from everybody on campus to make that difference. So,
And there's two approaches to it. The consultant, Russ, quite a few times in different presentations always talked about enrollment equaling revenue. Those are the easy gains to get, or the more enjoyable gains to get. You can also look at the other side of the ledger and start looking at cuts, and it becomes real easy for that to get a snowball rolling down the hill, and the sky is falling type of mentality. So I think everybody was aware of what needed to be done, but it wasn't panic. It was kind of a calm, measured approach to what we tried to do and what we tried to accomplish along the way. And so hopefully we're going to see the benefits from that carry over into this next fiscal year. And when you look at kind of the marketing aspect, which really is what part of that admissions and that recruitment piece comes into. Accountants are never good ones for marketing. Usually we sit in the back of the room with our head up against the wall. But, there's the 4 Ps. But when I write my marketing book, that's going to be, instead of 4 pages, it'll be 6 pages. I think you have to add people and persistence to that discussion. And I think that's what you've seen here. And I think that's what you've seen in our enrollment numbers that have come around. It's also what we've seen in terms of achieving that task, or in my mind, measurably achieving it, is that the people that were involved with it, everybody on campus, and then the persistence to stay the course and follow up on it. And so, like I said, as I started off, we've dropped the green flag on the next year. Now it's that race for the checkered flag as we head towards it. So we're off to a very, very good start. So.
Good work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Can I get a motion to approve the financial wrap-up?
So move.
Second?
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
All right, Kent, I'm going to turn it over to you for the policy discussion.
On item 9, A through G, those are review revise only. This, starting July 1st, collective bargaining was removed from tech schools. So on all of these policies, what we did, policy review met 2 weeks ago, and we went through and, Vicki went through and had changed the wording in those policies. They were brought to policy review, and we looked at and made a few more minor changes. So I certainly can read every one if you want me to, but what I would move is item 9, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. All of those policies would be review revise. I would move for their approval.
Second?
All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay.
All right.
And then item 10, A, and that's, one of the things that we have done is we did away with the old policy GB, and that had to do with the working agreements and the collective bargaining piece. And that's the action we're taking for tonight. When do we bring, Rich can maybe, or Vicki, we're going to bring the new GB eventually? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So this is the part of the task that well, not just administration, everybody on campus has worked to put together an employee handbook. Again, with the removal of collective bargaining, we have to have something in place to replace that. So employee handbook has been rough drafted, and what this action will allow is Kate Bartel Nowak, yes, it authorizes administration to make changes to the handbook so that not every one of those has to come to the school board for an action. That would just be a whole lot more cumbersome than it would need to be. So the new policy GB and the action that we're going to do first read on tonight, that'll be out there for 30 days. We'll, at the October meeting, we'll take final action on that. It'll be on the websites and open for comments, questions, and any additional changes. So I would move for approval of first reading of policy GB/STI working agreements as policy recognition of bargaining units.
Second.
And
Discussion?
that was all real clear, right? I did a really fine job explaining that.
You did a
Sure I
fantastic
did.
job.
Uh-huh.
And reading through that, I had emailed President Griggs and Vicki to see when about that employee handbook would be done, and they thought probably end of next week as well.
Yep.
So, yep.
Right. And if I may,
Yeah.
it really is a communication tool, and we've had a lot of listening sessions and feedback, and as being kind of engaged in part of that writing process, sometimes we can stand a little too close to the screen and not always see the movie that's playing. So I think we've tried to do a good job of soliciting feedback. We've had multiple listening sessions. We've created forums in which folks can respond and say, hey, this doesn't make sense to me, type of things, and trying to just make that communication tool as good as we can out of the chute. I don't think it's ever finished. It's a living document, and it'll always be ongoing. But with the policy that you're acting, every time that we make those living document types of changes to it, it's not coming before you. It's really to provide that clearer communication. So yes, the timeline, we're on task for that.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks,
Thank
Ken.
you.
Okay. I've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the first reading of policy GB, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. And can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So move.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.